So I'm a journalist, not an academic, which means I am not an expert. I see my job as translating the experts, as making academic research more accessible to the general public. That's part of my mission. I'm here to talk about the many myths, misperceptions, and half-truths about higher education, as evidenced by the many angry emails I get. Let's talk about the first one here, which is that it's easy to work your way through college, meaning that financial aid, whether you're getting it from your parents or the institution or the federal government through a loan or a grant, is only for leeches and layabouts. Back in the 70s, what you could earn through that kind of work schedule was about equal to what you would have to pay for tuition fees, room and board at a public four-year institution. Today, of course, the minimum wage is worth much less, and college costs much more. So in fact, whereas before you could roughly pay for not only going to college, but also living expenses, like room and board, today you can't even pay for tuition. Myth number 2, most college grads can't find jobs, or if they can, they all stink. You know, they're all working at Starbucks, for example. Everybody's underemployed. And as you can see, all college graduates are at like 2.5% unemployment rate, whereas recent college graduates are about 4%. If you compare it to all workers, recent college grads are doing better than all workers. All workers have like about a 5% right now unemployment rate. And then if you compare that to the same age group, age 22 to 27, without a BA, it's way higher than everybody else. The reason the jobs stink, you're assuming myth number 2 is correct, they do stink, is that everyone majors in women's studies. And I get this all the time. It's not always women's studies. Sometimes it's like dance or art history or, basket weaving or whatever. And it is true, as we have heard, that there is a dispersion in labor market outcomes depending on what you major in. And students may not realize that they're leaving money on the table if they want to make more money because they're majoring in art history or whatever. In the 2014-2015 school year, this is from Education Department data, there were 1.9 million bachelor's degrees awarded. Of those, only about 1,000 were for women's studies. In fact, if you combine all area, ethnic, cultural, gender group studies, so, queer studies, African American studies, whatever, even then, that's less than 8,000 degrees, which is, the numbers were about 0.4% of the total. Visual and performing arts degrees were about 96,000, and that includes art history, and that's only about 5% of the total. I don't have stats on basket weaving, but actually there is a category called fiber, textile, and weaving arts, and there were 187 degrees. This is the idea that the average new grad has like 40 grand in debt, and yes, you can find these people. I've written about them, in fact, and so maybe I'm part of the problem. But there is this perception that they represent all college graduates and that these people are never going to be able to pay this funding back. For all graduates, the share that have over $40,000 in debt is like 18%. It's small. It's not everyone. In fact, 30% have no debt at all upon graduation. And there's, a lot of variation depending on the student and what school they go to. So my last one is about climbing walls. Again, I hear this all the time from readers, that the reason why tuition has become more expensive is because of all these frivolities that schools are providing, climbing walls, lazy rivers, that sort of thing. But if you look at this chart, it's basically showing the top bars, the green bars, are tuition revenue, and the blue ones are funding from the state. And basically every time there's a recession, funding is cut. And it recovers somewhat during a recovery, but not necessarily fully, and tuition has to make up the balance. So it's not climbing walls, it's that, somebody has to be bearing the cost of these students' education, and if we used to consider it a public good, it's now more of a private good. It's the burden of that cost is borne more by the students.